Good evening, race fans, and welcome to eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series Countdown to Green, refreshed by Coca-Cola. Thanks so much for spending your Tuesday nights with us. My name's Amy Long. I'm being joined by Brandon Cattell, Chris Overland, Michael Guerrilla, the three amigos. How you doing tonight, guys?
What's up, Amy?
Baby.
Doing great.
Oh, baby.
Yeah.
We got Bristol. It's Bristol, baby.
It's Bristol, baby. Yeah, you said it, Chris.
Look, Chris.
I was wondering who was going to break out first for that.
Hey, I'm looking good, and you know it.
All right, we've got 3 races left to go. Tonight, the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series is headed to round 16. It's time for some short track racing and the world's fastest half mile. The virtual Bristol Motor Speedway is making its series playoffs debut and what is sure to be a gripping race. But first, the playoffs got off to an exciting start at the virtual Darlington Raceway. Bobby Zalenski outdueled Mitchell DeYoung during a double overtime to earn his second win of the season, 10th career win overall. He locked himself and Latari Esports into the championship 4. Take a look.
We're happy that you're with us on a Tuesday night. The pace car down and in. It is Mitchell DeYoung's field to control as we say, let's go racing at Darlington. Mitchell DeYoung had a flat. I think he might have just locked it up. This is all I saw. The car broke sideways at once. Late commit to pit road. Mitchell DeYoung still trying to get the race lead back from his teammate Keegan Leahy. And he'll go to the inside of Luza for the race lead as he throws it off into the corner. I do think he was clutching a little bit, but... And there's a caution flag with less than 7 laps to go. Brad Davies and Garrett Maines fighting for position, and this race will be settled in overtime. They need to get to the white flag. They will not. Caution flag behind them. It was the 67 who got loose up in front of the 32, and we will have to do it again. And this time, Steve, Zalenski DeYoung going to be side by side on the front row. Down it in, Bobby Zalenski, right foot down early. Green flag in the air for green-white checker number 2. Final time to 3. He looks to the inside, side by side for the race lead. But Bobby Zalenski wins at Darlington and will fight for an eNASCAR championship in 2021.
Man, I know better now than to vote against Bobby Zalenski.
Yes, congratulations to Bobby and team for securing the first playoff win of the season. Only one driver will grab the victory and possibly secure their spot in the championship finale. Now, here's a look at the driver standings headed into round 16. Michael, your thoughts here?
Well, I mean, we got our first playoff spot in the final 4 locked up already. I mean, Bobby Zalenski going out, doing it in a different little fashion than what he's normally used to with his dominant wins on the road courses. He picked it up on the oval at Darlington last time, and now the packet's a little bit more tighter. I mean, you have to have good days, and I mean, I look back to Graham Boland, Michael Connie. Those guys had good days at Darlington, but they have to translate that into good days coming up to Bristol and Talladega. So those guys that didn't get a chance at the win, they still have 2 more chances at that win before we get to our final 4.
You know, Michael, there's a saying in life and in the sim racing world specifically, well, not specifically, but still, and it's adapt or die. And I really want to point out pretty much every driver, except for one that we'll talk about a little bit later, adapted to their circumstances at Darlington. And I want to highlight Bob Bryant. He was involved in multiple incidents last week and found a way to finish in the top 20. Bob has made good days out of bad days, and sometimes that's what it takes to get you into the final 4.
Absolutely, making lemonade out of lemons. All right, on your screen now, the team standings headed into round 16. Chris, your thoughts?
Well, you know, I just want to give a quick shout out to Team Dillon Esports. They're into the top 10 now. I don't think they've been in the top 10 all season, and they finally rallied, and just goes to show that with consistency and a little bit of hard work, you can claw yourself out of just about any hole.
Yeah, I agree with you there, Chris. One thing I'm looking at here, Mode Motorsports continues to just keep on digging up into the point standings here for the team standings. So I see them to maybe gain a couple more spots before the end of the season, try to make a run at 23-11, but look at that point lead, 23-11. They're in the money right now.
Absolutely. And Chris and Brandon, both of you say these guys are not giving up. I mean, even when they're given, no luck, like I said, given lemons, they are still going for it. Every race counts. Now let's go through your thoughts on round 15 at Darlington from our panel of drivers, starting with you, Chris. The buildup for the regular season was already incredibly intense, and that first playoff race was insane. Do you think that these drivers are going to be able to handle the pressure?
Well, like I said, you're going to have to adapt or die. You're going to have to make the best out of the worst situations. And the only person in the final 10 that wasn't able to do it was Keegan Leahy. Keegan ran in the top 5 all day, got caught up in some mess later on in the event and couldn't rally, couldn't make anything come of it. So unfortunately, Keegan finds himself one of the strongest contenders for this championship, but one of the furthest out. So Keegan, I'm sure he's thinking about getting a win. And with tonight at Bristol, if you're thinking win and win and win, and you get stuck behind somebody, you're going to be very impatient. And I'm a little bit worried. I don't know how he's going to weather the storm.
Little concern for him. All right, Michael, the first playoffs race in the books. Did any of the drivers come out with any unexpected tricks up their sleeves going into the end of the season?
Well, there were a few. We talked about it already. Bobby Zielinski's already clinched his way into that Final Four. But, I mean, when it comes down to it, you really can't count anybody out yet. I mean, we still have the wild card of Bristol tonight, Talladega in 2 weeks' time. So there's a lot to still be had here in these last 2 weeks before the finale at Texas. But, I mean, you got to think about it. Mitchell DeYoung, how do we underestimate him, guys? I mean, yes, he's been coined as the road course ace. But, I mean, he dominated all of Darlington last time out. So, I mean, he led basically the entire race, and had those cautions not come out late, he probably would have punched his ticket to the Final Four. So, I mean, you have to consider the fact that there's a guy like Mitchell who has that pace, they can bring it out at any track he comes to, and the fact that there's still wind you're in. I mean, we still have any wild cards that are in the bottom half of the playoffs, like we mentioned earlier, Bob Bryant, Vicente Salas, all these different guys can still win their way in. And there's a place in the Final Four without a win. So you can still point your way in the process too.
Definitely so many different scenarios. And Brandon, double overtime, but there was so much more going on last week than meets the eye.
Yeah. And, Michael, a quick little thing on that. I look back, I ate my words last week. I said that Mitchell DeYoung and Bobby Zielinski, they wouldn't be doing good without the road courses. And here they are. They're doing great. So I'm going to eat my words on that. But the other race that we're looking at right now is the top 20. We have guys trying to make it back in the series like Ray Alfala, Jake Nichols, some of these guys who are not fortunate to have not make the playoffs here, who are still trying to be in the series to race for $100,000, $300,000 in prizes each year. So we got to focus on that too, to see who's going to be retaining their license and retaining a chance to race for an eNASCAR championship.
I thought that rule was really cool until 2 years ago.
That relegation, we're going to cover that much later, or a little bit later in Countdown to Green, so stay tuned for that. Thanks so much, guys, for your thoughts on that. Also, wanted to highlight Allied Esports and NASCAR teamed up to bring gaming activations to fans by way of an 80-foot mobile gaming arena, which included a main stage, a broadcaster booth, roof deck, and full production capabilities, as well as some iRacing simulators. Last time, we highlighted Chris and Brandon's trip to Daytona International Speedway for the Coke Zero Sugar 400, where they were also able to show off some of their skills around the track. But check out this 18-wheeler.
It's so cool
There it is.
what NASCAR is doing just with video games and gaming and sim racing esports. It's really remarkable how much it's changed over the last couple of years to now.
I guess it's as close as I'm going to get to the real thing, so I kind of like the feedback of the wheel fighting you and fighting the looseness and the tightness of the car.
Having it at the racetrack is important, I think, not only for me because I want to go out there and I want to compete with people I've never met before, but for people who haven't tried it before, it's a great way to expose them to the technology and things that they aren't normally exposed to. People walk by video game films all the time and they don't bat an eye at it, but you see a big motion simulator like we have set up here, and it really draws attention to it, and it's going to bring in a lot of new fans.
It's a lot of fun for the fans that can't afford to do it, the folks that are trying to learn and get into it.
I did pretty good. It was like something I've never done before. It was my first time, and it was really cool.
Yeah, that looked like so much fun. Chris and Brandon, you got to try it firsthand. Tell us about it.
One thing I want to point out there, we saw fans of all ages right there, guys. So no matter if you're young or old, you can play these games, play the simulators, get out to the racetrack, and come hang out with us. It's awesome. It's a fun experience.
Yeah, and not only is people of all ages, but it's people of all skill levels. I met somebody who was just trying it for the first time. Somebody who had a simulator at home was letting their kid try it because, God forbid, they let their kid on their own sim rig. And and then on top of that, there were sim racers from around the world who showed up and tried to beat Brandon's lap. I was one of them. Unfortunately, it was nothing but disappointment for me.
You didn't beat my lap.
Well, you know, guys, one thing that was mentioned in that little clip there was the cost effectiveness, and that's one thing that iRacing provides. If you can't get in the seat of a real world car, you always got iRacing. So I mean, that's one thing that was brought up, and the fact that you two were duking it out, man. Was anyone even close to you guys when it came down to it? Being as pros you guys are.
There were about 8 other people within a tenth. So
Yeah.
it was pretty close. I won't even mention the motion rig on the Daytona road course. I'm not going to mention my lap time because I didn't put down
2
one.
minute.
We were pretty good at holding the throttle down all the way at Daytona, but once we hit the road course, it wasn't good.
We were in trouble.
Brutal. It looks like a lot of fun, and they're actually going to be out at Talladega as well. So fans, if you are in person and at the track, go out and enjoy it. Let us know how much you're enjoying it with eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. And also wanted to let you know you're running out of weekends to check out your local short tracks. This video was shot by our producer who checked out the NASCAR Advanced Auto Parts Weekly Series at Seekonk Speedway in Massachusetts this past Saturday. He actually said for $15, he got 3 hours of racing, 4 different series, and all the driver access you could want to. Check it out, guys.
Back in the day, so anybody, if you're going out, if you have home tracks near you, I can't express it enough. Go out there. Look on NASCAR.com/routes to find out which track is closest to you, and just go, man. We've got a couple races to end out the year here at a lot of the racetracks throughout the country, and not just in the United States. We've got Europe and Mexico also. So make sure to really go out there and see your home tracks.
Yep. And I mean, I would venture to say that if you're looking for a future in motorsports, this is where you start. So, I mean, I'm sure some of these guys over here need help, need somebody to clean the car. And then look at these flagmen. They need some help. Look at them. Their arms are probably tired. This is Steve Bowden and Kevin Boucher. NASCAR should give these guys some jobs. They're getting some TV time here. I'm sure their arms are tired. They're looking like Barney the flagman.
They are actually the flagman at that track, and look how great they are at their jobs already. It's
They're
incredible.
choreographed.
You know they've been doing this for a while. Look at those. Look at the flag skills there. I mean
those are some
that's
skills.
incredible. And I mean, you look at this. Brittany Campbell was one of the featured winners on the night there at Seekonk Speedway. So shout out to her for getting it done there on Saturday on September 11th. So it was a great job by her, and one of the different faces in the ranks that are coming up through Seekonk.
Yeah,
Definitely.
for sure. I mean, you can get, like I said, all ages, all skill levels can participate, and not only in iRacing, but go to your local short track and you get to see the same thing.
Definitely. And head to NASCAR.com/routes and click on Find Your Home Track. It's going to be on the top left corner to find your closest track. Remember, you're running out of weekends, so make them count. All right, joining us on Countdown to Green, former NASCAR driver, winner across each of NASCAR's top 3 series, including his very first career win, the Food City 500 at Bristol Motor Speedway, and owner of the 1 and 2 Toyota Camrys, Elliott Sadler. Elliott, thank you so much for taking time to sit down with us here at Countdown to Green. How did you get involved with iRacing?
Well, I'll tell you kind of how it all got started is when NASCAR did the Pro Invitational at Homestead over a year ago. Remember, COVID took over, we're all sitting at home. It was a big success, a big hit. My son and I, Wyatt, were thoroughly enjoyed watching that race. And at the end of it, you know, I used to be teammates with William Byron at Junior Motorsports. So I called him and like, all right, you're an iRacing guru, man. What do I need to do? My son and I, we want to do this and it looks fun and, you know, something we can do with the COVID stuff happening. So he hooked me up, sent me in the right direction, sent me to a company here, actually real close to home in Richmond, Virginia, called Sim Seats, who do a lot of rigs for a lot of guys that are in iRacing, and they sent me down a rental while they built us 2 fresh rigs for Wyatt and I. And that's kind of how we got started, man. It all started with watching it on TV, and the rest is history from there.
I don't know about the rest of you sitting at home, but I sure do miss seeing Elliott Sadler too. And it's so great to see him so involved. What have you and the team over at ESE learned during the first 2 years with the Coca-Cola iRacing series?
Well, that's a good question. And that's things we have to learn, I think, race to race, things that we learn what to do and what not to do. You know, I've learned a lot from a strategy standpoint, how these guys are breaking up races, what my drivers want. You know, what Garrett wants to feel on a 1.5 miles compared to, you know, where we go if we're at Bristol or road course. You know, Vicente Salas, who drives the 55 car, is doing good, playing for playoffs. He's also an ESC technical guy. So we're also trying to help him as well. We have an alliance with Lowline Racing, who has Blade Witt out there as well. So we're getting all this information, you know, from a couple different guys. We're trying to splice it together, give them what they need personally, because I've been there. Each driver wants their own little feel. And so that's what we're learning in year one. And hopefully we can build on that, you know, as we make it into year two, to know more exactly what these strategies are for these races, what the top guys do to have the more experience, and then what our drivers really need to be competitive.
Absolutely. And with 25 years of experience in NASCAR, you are clearly a wealth of knowledge. Catching up on it, it's clear that you're constantly learning as well. Are you preparing for the next gen car?
So I think a lot of what we've been working on is we really focus on the Coke series and trying to finish this year out strong, especially with Garrett trying to make the top 20, Vicente's trying to win that championship. But we have a couple guys on the side that are doing next gen experiments right now, you know, running some open races on some tracks. The setups and the changes you can make to that car are a lot different. So we're trying to get a trend and what's going on. So we're doing a little work on the side. You know, it's tough with iRacing, and I try to explain this to my guys. We went through the same thing. You get to going good on something, and then Goodyear will change a tire, or a racetrack will update a surface, whether it's a repave or sealer or PJ1, whatever you want to call it. Well, iRacing, we kind of go through the same thing. Every once in a while, of course, they have to update their files, they'll update track surfaces and those things. And before I got here, before we started, my guys would really get down in the dumps with that. And now I'm like, hey, anytime there's a change or an update, that gives teams an opportunity to get an advantage. Let's look at this from a positive. If they're going to change the surface, I mean, at Rockingham, like they did with the trucks, or, you know, an update, let's see if we can find a niche that helps us. Let's don't complain about it. Let's try to attack it from a different angle. So all that being said, we're doing a little bit of work with the next gen, but we feel like by the time we need to be really good in that car, updates will be updated. The car might be tweaked a little bit, whether it's per NASCAR, you know, come down through iRacing or what have you, but we are doing a little bit on the side just to get an idea.
Thank you so much, Elliott, for joining us here on Countdown to Green. Wonderful to have you here. Great to see you back. Guys, I don't know about you, but I've been missing some Elliott Sadler in my life, and it's cool to hear that he's so involved.
You know, Chris, I'm going to butt in real quick. I love what he said here. The change that comes week to week that they experience in real life, it's just the same thing on iRacing. We get updates all the time. That's what's so great about iRacing, and tire model changes and stuff like that. So we could load a setup in the sim, and we'll come to realize the setup won't work anymore. So we have those same kind of issues that they have in real life. So that's really cool to see that he's talking about that and being so involved with it.
You know, you see NASCAR drivers try out iRacing, like, oh, it's cool, you know, I have this and I have that. And Elliott broke it down like somebody who's been sim racing for 10, 15 years. I'm legitimately blown away by his involvement in the sport. And honestly, Elliott Sadler, you are a pleasure to have in the sim racing community.
He's a cool dude. Ever since I saw him on Speed back in the day, super cool dude.
Oh yeah, by far one of my favorite interviews.
He's still a racer at heart. Did you hear him? He said, I want to try to get every advantage I can every time there's a new build. So he's still got that passion for it, even outside of the seat, and it's incredible to see.
Love me some Elliott Sadler.
Absolutely. Come back to Countdown to Green anytime, Elliott. We're happy to have you. All right, moving on. One of my favorite segments of our show, we get a glimpse into your world. We love all the drivers out there who show off their sim rigs. This segment is brought to you by Logitech. Here's a look at more sim rigs for the archive. Just so you know, these are the first time we're seeing these ourselves, too.
Phil's missing a couple things.
This has got to be a VR set. It's got to be. I mean, I don't see a monitor anywhere.
Yep,
oh, yeah. Okay, I see him.
Wow.
I was like, where is the computer and where is the monitor?
Wow. Amazing.
Here
Great
we got
light
Ben.
job.
There's a lot going on.
I gotta say, Ben, I'm not a fan of Jeeps.
Yeah, he's got the
Putting it out
backlit
there.
Jeep bumper over there on the right.
I don't like Jeeps.
Hey,
Not a Jeep
I just
fan.
like his chair. It's just simple, you know.
Yeah.
It gets the job done.
I like the coolers in the corner, actually. Check out this one.
Wow.
Is that a real steering wheel?
That
like
that
off
is
of a
real wheel.
production car.
It is. Yeah,
Oh,
and the
man.
pedals are too. Look, at the pedals are inverted.
You know, every time we do this,
Oh my
I get
God.
absolutely blown away by the innovation of some people.
Absolutely.
You got that?
It's a cardboard box.
Oh wow!
I was
Look
about
at this
to say
one.
that.
It's got the
Oh.
window net and all.
Is that
I have
PVC pipes?
This
Just to
is
keep them
insane.
safe. This person gets a little crazy when they race, I think.
We've
Is
seen
that-
some chassis, but
that
I mean, you get the full
intricate-
window net.
That intricate on his sim rig, and the only name he could send is Jake.
I know. He was busy, okay?
Yeah,
Clearly
he's busy working on his sim rig. Yeah, that's fine. Oh goodness.
What's happening here?
This is
The,
one
the
way to do
duality
it.
of man.
Hey, you know what? He doesn't have his bed made, so Jeff Gordon's gonna yell at him about that.
Yeah, you'd know
I
about
know
it.
too much about that.
You know,
Dude, look at the computer just sitting on the bed. I wouldn't trust that at all.
no,
Johnny
it's gotta be running
D.
hot.
Oh, okay. See this ironing board here. I did get a note whenever we saw this come through on Twitter that this was the this is what Johnny D used while he was deployed in our armed forces. So pretty cool.
Oh wow!
Think about-
I'm glad you said that before I voiced my opinion. But you work with what you got.
Absolutely.
I tell you what, I started out on the laptop. Goodness, that is difficult.
Look at
Oh
this.
my.
Look at the lighting. That's
We're going
awesome.
all over the spectrum today, man. Thousands
We
of
are.
dollars versus like 12.
See, it's just a glimpse into everybody's lifestyle, but you can do it all.
I bet you I've been. Oh, good night.
See, you know, when
Yeah.
when you have to sleep on the go on iRacing, this is your guy right now.
This
is
is
cool.
in between stints. This is me.
VR
when-
endurance racer. or
This is me
racer.
when I get a 40-second penalty for speeding.
Oh, that's amazing. I wonder, you think he might still be sleeping there? I'm not really sure. All right, love to see all of those sim rigs. Share yours too by tweeting us a picture using the hashtag eNASCAR and tag iRacing and NASCAR. All right, so we see the guys that are competing, looking to lock in their spot for the championship for. But what happens to the bottom 20 of the series? The guys are going to explain how this all works, the battle for the top 20, who's staying in, who's not. Guys, how does relegation all work out?
Oh,
Hey,
I hate
Mr.
that we all
Technical.
know.
Mr.
We all
Michael,
know.
you want to get this? You want to do this for us?
Well, Contender Series, along with the top 20 in the Road to Pro qualifying series. There's a chance you guys could be racing us three in the Contender Series should we be able to advance. And we're not going to make it. We're going to make it really hard for you guys to get back in the series. That's for sure. But that breakdown gets everyone into the Contender Series. A month of races. It's going to be a tight month. It's going to be a lot of racing in a short span of time to get into the Coke Series for the 2022 season. And goodness, guys, that Pro Series, the Contender Series, is going to be such a difficult grind. I know it was intense for me last year. Obviously, we're all on the bad end of it, but I mean, you guys know how hard it is just to even get into the Contender Series to start with.
Oh,
yeah,
man.
the Contender Series, they do not take any prisoners. You race the best of the best that are coming out of the Coke Series, and they're usually on their game. And, you know, I've been on the bat and the stick coming out of the Coke Series before and racing some of the drivers coming from the qualifying series. And they are up on their game because they have been grinding all season long, nonstop. And sometimes you could be burnt out finishing in the last 20 spots of the Coca-Cola series. So it's a mix where you just wish you just have enough to make the top 20 to make it back in.
Yeah, it's the most stressful time of the year, I'd like to say, but it's also the most exciting because you get to find out if you're going to advance through. It's not looking too great for me at the moment, but man, it's fun.
Yeah, it sounds like it. And you guys aren't completely out. We're going to keep our fingers crossed and hope that you keep doing well. Thanks for breaking it down for us. It was actually incredibly helpful from my end as well. Tonight is Bristol, baby. Round 16 of the eNASCAR Coca-Cola Series duels at the virtual Last Coliseum. and we turn to Chris Overland for track analysis.
This is by far one of my favorite tracks on the iRacing circuit, on the NASCAR circuit. Honestly, if you could ride bicycles around here, I'd watch that. Bristol, Tennessee, 0.5 miles, the last great Coliseum, the world's fastest half mile. Well, the last great Coliseum for now. I got to point that out. We've got 26 degrees of banking on the bottom, 30 up on the top, makes for some great multi-groove racing. Man, it is going to be hectic tonight. And the name of the game, gentlemen and Amy, is patience. If you're not patient tonight, you're going to run into the back of somebody. You're not going to have any friends at the end of the race, and somebody's going to pay you back. And then on the other end of the spectrum, if you're in the way, you better be patient. You better let that guy go, because you don't want to be caught up in a wreck that's going to end your night early. I know I was impatient starting in the back last year, and we had some trouble. So you gotta keep your head on straight. And honestly, it's a mental battle as much as it is a physical battle.
Yeah, definitely. Well, before the action on the track, let's hear who our panel of drivers thinks is going to be the top gladiator. Our driver picks brought to you by Playseat, the official racing chair of eNASCAR. Brandon, who do you got tonight?
Well, I still got the points lead somehow, but I'm going out on a limb tonight. Vicente Salas is going to get it done. Space Station Gaming. He's been great at the short tracks, guys. So there's no doubt that he can totally do it tonight at Bristol, 100%.
You know, that's a good pick. If we're going out on a limb, going with Vicente, I'm also going out on a limb, but I'm going with a driver who has won this year. He's been in the Final Four before. Logan Clampett gets it done tonight. They've got some momentum going. The William Byron Esports cars are fast. Logan has been so close to making that Final Four and making it into the $100,000 purse, and I think it might be his year.
You know, guys, I'm going to go with a driver who has also done well on the short tracks this year. Well, he hasn't flashed until recently. It's going to be Jimmy Mullis. I mean, he's going to make my Final Four easy when it comes down to it. So, I mean, he's going to get the win tonight, lock himself into that Final Four. But he's had success at short tracks like we saw Loudon with his win earlier this year. So, I mean, he's got a chance to get it done here tonight, and I think he's going to do it.
That's a good pick, Mike.
Man, it is getting down to it. You're sure about Jimmy making it?
I need to make up a 13-point gap, guys.
Can't be sure about anything at Bristol.
All right, we've just in qualifying, we've got Keegan Leahy on the pole. 23-11 sweeps the front row yet again. So any thoughts headed into that? Are you changing your picks up?
It's too late.
Too late now.
Can't change the graphics now. We're set in. Do you think that this is going to be much like the same?
I think we're going to see a lot of them running up front, but it's Bristol. Anything can happen.
About after lap 15, 16, there is no up front. You're just a leader in the middle of the carnage.
Dude, the same cast of characters were at the front of Darlington are at the front. Keegan's starting on pole, Mitchell second, Bobby third. It's going to be a dogfight. Maybe Bobby can secure another win.
Who's going to make it through the storm, guys?
Yeah, this is actually going to be Bristol's, like I said, debut track time here for the playoffs. This will be the very first time that the virtual Bristol Motor Speedway is in the playoffs. So we'll see. It's anybody's game. All right, remember, tweet us a picture of your rig and playoffs brackets. If you still want to show them off here on Countdown to Green, use the hashtag eNASCAR and tag iRacing and NASCAR. For everyone behind the camera that brings this show to life and my panel of drivers, Brandon Cattell, Chris Overland, Michael Grilla, thanks so much for having us here. Thanks for joining us here on Countdown. One champion is narrowing. The round of 16 at the virtual Bristol Motor Speedway starts now.
We've learned to savor the moments that were always there. And they never tasted this good.
I am sweet. The taste, the smell. It's winning, and there's nothing quite like it. And now, a win is even sweeter, because a win means you move on. That much closer to playoffs glory. I am what we do this for. To be remembered forever as champion. I am the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series playoffs. I am NASCAR.
It doesn't matter where you're from, who you grew up rooting for, what you grew up watching, your home track, your favorite car.
the series you've always wanted to race in. When you're ready to know what it's like, we're here, bringing you as close to the action as it gets with the ultimate sim racing experience. With a community of hundreds of thousands just like you. This is iRacing, and here, every day is race day.
Get it, I'm on the mission, snap any minute, casually winning. Stop tripping on me, stop dissing on me. Yeah, I got a dream, can't take it from me. Gotta get it here, I don't wanna wait. Take what I want, then I go train. Gotta get a win, I won't lose the game. This is my year, I ain't gonna break. Ain't got no time for no fear. I work too hard to get here. Ain't got no time for no fear. I work too hard to get here.
The road to $300,000 rolls into Thunder Valley, where tonight from the virtual Bristol Motor Speedway, we say good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series Playoffs, Round 1, Race 2. We're so happy that you're spending another Tuesday night with us here on the iRacing Sports Network and streaming live at eNASCAR.com. As always, alongside myself, Evan Pasoko, happy to be joined again by Steve Letarte and Parker Klickerman on the call. And guys, we saw a crazy playoff opener 2 weeks ago. A very tricky challenge for the drivers here tonight at Bristol.
Yeah, listen, if Darlington was tricky and a challenge, Bristol was going to be even tougher, Parker. Half mile, everything happens in a hurry.
No doubt. We got to, at Darlington, we saw a very long race, an endurance race in a lot of respects, but what we're going to see here is just a race for survival. High speeds, a tiny short track. It's like fighter jets in a fishbowl. It's going to be awesome to watch.
And of course, the news of the day is that the 2022 NASCAR Clash is headed west to the LA Coliseum on February the 6th of 2022. You saw a demo of that circuit earlier today on Race Hub on FS1. And Steve and Parker, you guys, I think, are some of the best to get input on this as a driver and a crew chief perspective. What do you guys think about this move for 2022?
Listen, I think it's a great idea. I think the Clash should always be about exhibition. It should be bringing eyes to a sport which I love. I know Parker and I both not only love auto racing, but with NASCAR specifically. And the idea of going to LA, it's a huge market. And at the Coliseum, why not? I mean, everybody likes short tracks. It can't get much shorter than a quarter mile inside a football stadium, and that's what it's going to be. And there's always going to be naysayers, Parker, but in my opinion, this just proves that kind of anything's possible. We saw IndyCar at the streets at Nashville, and now we see NASCAR in the LA Coliseum. Tip of the hat to NASCAR and everyone that it took to get this accomplished. I'm sure the list is long.
No doubt, Steven. I think this is sort of the ethos for motorsports in the next decade, to sort of do things we haven't done before, try stuff out, don't put ourselves in a box, and that's what we're going to see here. I think the atmosphere will be electric. The crowd will be awesome at this. I mean, it remains to be seen what this track will race like, but I can tell you just from looking at the early designs, you're absolutely going to have to use your bumper a little bit there, and I think it'll be fun to show so many people NASCAR racing, not making it very hard for them to get there. I have so many friends who've moved out to LA. I can't wait to be able to show them NASCAR racing up close and personal in a very easy fashion. And I'll look forward to NASCAR changing their Instagram handle to something like FL Aero LA, just like everyone who moves to LA. So
iRacing's been so involved, guys, right, with testing the viability of street racing, like with that Chicago street course, as well as kind of testing some of the new configurations for Fontana. Very involved as well in this project. But we're getting ready tonight for a race at another great Coliseum, and that is here tonight at Bristol Motor Speedway. So to get things kicked off, let's hand things over to Jerry Caldwell, who is the Executive Vice President and General Manager for Bristol Motor Speedway, for the most famous words in motorsports.
On behalf of the team here at Bristol Motor Speedway, it's time to go racing. Drivers, start your engines!
And to introduce you to your playoff drivers, we hand things back off to Keenan Kusin.
Thank you, Evan. After a thriller at the last round in Darlington, we move to the high-banked half mile of Bristol Motor Speedway. Bobby Zelensky took the nail-biter victory and punched his ticket into the Championship 4, leaving 3 spots open for an opportunity at a championship and $100,000. With 2 races left and the points very close, it is still anyone's game. Ladies and gentlemen, here are your 2021 eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series playoff drivers. Taking the checkered flag at Darlington in a thrilling finish, he's already earned his way into the Championship 4. Can Letarte Esports driver repeat tonight in the number 83 Chevrolet out of Fresno, California? It's Bobby Zelensky. Narrowly missing out in Darlington, having led 120 laps, this driver's looking to take that momentum straight into tonight at Bristol. Hailing from Temecula, California in the number 2311 Toyota Camry, it's Mitchell DeYoung. Currently 3rd in points after scoring a top 5 finish at Darlington, looking to secure his spot in the finals tonight. Driving the 46 Toyota out of Midland, North Carolina, it's Richmond Raceway Esports' own Jimmy Mullis. Currently on the bubble going into tonight, only clear by 1 point. Driving the number 75 Ford Mustang for Mode Motorsports and representing Darien, Illinois, looking for another solid finish, it's Matt Busa. The first-year drivers outside the Championship 4 looking in from Concord, North Carolina, driving the number 97 Chevrolet, trying to keep the momentum going from his solid top 10 finish last race, it's Logan Clampett. Representing the great beyond of Space Station Gaming from Temecula, California, he pilots the number 55 Ford Mustang, is looking to rocket his way into the Championship 4, it's Vicente Salas. Just finishing outside the top 10 last round, but not out of the hunt yet. From Concord, North Carolina, driving the number 8 Junior Motorsports Chevrolet, trying to make it 2-time, it's Michael Conti. Driving the number 10 machine and trying to bowl over the competition tonight in Bristol. From Houston, Texas, in the Stewart-Haas Racing Ford, trying to claim his spot in the Championship 4, it's Graham Bolin. Trying to find some short track magic in the number 77 Klingerman Sports Chevrolet, it's the pride and joy of Biloxi, Mississippi, Double B, Bob Bryant. Leading a few laps at Darlington, but definitely not having the race he was hoping for. Driving the number 32 2311 Toyota Camry, straight out of Halifax, Nova Scotia, forecasting a great run tonight, it's the weatherman, Keegan Leahy. Who will be the second driver to join Bobby Zelensky in the Championship 4 for an opportunity at Sim Racing Glory and $100,000? Can he put down a repeat performance? It's just about time to find out as the second round of the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series playoffs from Bristol Motor Speedway begins now. Back to you, Evan.
And we are ready to rock and roll for the second race of these 2021 playoffs. And for the 4th time in 2021, Keegan Leahy is on pole position alongside his 2311 teammate Mitchell DeYoung. And Steve, we'll go to you first on this one. We talked about Bobby Zelensky for Letarte Esports getting that win and a ticket into the Championship 4 last week at Darlington. There's 9 drivers left fighting for 3 spots.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be a big battle. I got 2 drivers that really come to mind tonight. That's Logan Clampett and Michael Conti. When I look at the drivers in the playoffs, I know how great those 2311 drivers are, but I really think that Logan and Michael are going to have the pace. It's a short track. It's a little bit different, and it is going to be about survival, so I have my eye on those 2 drivers.
We talk about survival, Parker. That's the same thing you mentioned off at the top. This is a race that we've only ever seen 4 other times in series history over the course of 11 years. 3 of those 4 races have had double-digit yellows. What's the key to surviving at a track like this?
Get to the front, try to stay there, but even at the front, there isn't safety because we've seen often at this race, as you mentioned, even the leaders getting involved when they get into traffic. We saw the leader, I think it was a year ago, literally get involved in a wreck that was happening on the backstretch, came around, the track was blocked, and it took them out of the chance for the victory. So this is probably one of the toughest races outside of a super speedway to survive, but if you do and you can find yourself with a clean car at the end, that could be a huge advantage. I also look for some of the non-playoff drivers to play spoiler here tonight because this is a big opportunity then with all the chaos that can ensue here at Bristol.
2311 continues to be the best team in qualifying this year, Parker, and Keegan Leahy enters tonight at the bottom of the playoff standings. You're dialed up with the driver of the 32, tonight's pole sitter.
Congrats, Keegan, on the pole. What do you think you have in the long run here in this 32 car?
Hey, Parker, nice to talk to you, by the way. I think that's Parker. I recognize the voice.
Sorry, I should have said it was me, by the way.
Yep, all good. So I'm Keegan, by the way. And I think our race set is worse than our qualifying setup, but it should be enough to hold the lead here for a while because it's really, really hard to pass here. We did A Open last night. A lot of the Coke drivers tend to do practice races right before these big races. So we know how this track's going to drive, and I'm going to be glued to the outside, not letting anyone get to my outside. But it's win or nothing for me here, so don't expect to watch me let anybody by.
How do you deal with the traffic? We've seen the leaders always sort of run into traffic here. How do you make do with it? You said you want to be at the top. How do you deal with that?
Yeah, unfortunately, the traffic probably wants the top too. So once we get into lap traffic, it's going to get more difficult. I don't think my car's that great on the bottom, so we'll see how that ends up. Hopefully people are nice to me, but yeah, I don't think this will be an easy race at all, even though I got pole. Like, there's always going to be cautions or long run lap traffic to deal with.
Best of luck, bud. Thanks for chatting with us.
Thank you.
That is the driver that will start from the front row in this race. So we mentioned a 250 lap event tonight. Steve, walk us through it with a look at our Asus race analysis and then the weather.
Well, 250 laps, 125 miles pit road speed, a crawling 35 miles per hour, about 33 seconds to head down pit lane, plus a pit stop. You have 5 sets of tires available. Fuel window, 125 to 130. So it's a one-stop race. It's just when do you stop? What does the traffic look like? Temperature currently 81 degrees, track temp 83 degrees, under the lights. It's night racing, it's short tracks, it's going to be exciting.
Yeah, unlike what we saw at Darlington, where there was a little bit of a transition period in the late, afternoon, evening into the night, where we started with some daylight. This race is very much a night race through and through under the lights, with a ticket to the Championship 4 on the line. Of course, you look back in series history, who may have an advantage here? Well, Ryan Luza won the Bristol race last year. Of course, that was a spring and day race, but he is the most previous race winner here in the Coke Series, so maybe Luza could find victory lane to play spoiler as one of those non-playoff drivers as we look to take the one to go. Top 4 drivers are all playoff cars. Lowest of the playoff drivers, Vicente Salas, down in 26th position. Steve, any final thoughts?
Well, I think you heard it right there from Keegan. The top's going to be the preferred lane, but I think it's going to come down to what car can leave the preferred lane, clear traffic on the bottom, and get back to the top. That's going to be the difference maker.
Race car going to be down and in this time. As always, happy that you're spending your Tuesday evening with us here on the iRacing Esports Network and streaming live at eNASCAR.com. The field in the hands of Keegan Leahy. It is his 14th career pole position. His teammate Mitchell DeYoung alongside him as we say, let's go playoff racing at Bristol. Good stuff up front for the 32 early in this race. Looking at a bit of side-by-side between Graham Bolin and Nick Ottinger. Remember, your playoff drivers can be identified by the red splitters, windshield banners, roof numbers, and spoilers. They'll also be highlighted in red on the graphics over the course of this night. We'll also do our best to keep you posted on where they all are. Only Bobby Zielinski locked in to the Championship 4. He rides in 3rd early in this race. But guys, looks like the top 10 or so wanting to get a little bit of real estate. Bob Bryant, maybe the last of the single file cars, as he rides in P8.
And it's on the bottom. That's what I find interesting. I think we're uncertain which lane would be the preferred lane, especially maybe as the run moves on. Will it move up to the top? That remains to be seen. I think seeing the bottom be so competitive, even in traffic, I think one of the things that these drivers are dealing with is the speeds this year are really high. They're about 0.3 faster than they were about a year ago, which doesn't sound like a lot, but around, a 15-second lap, that's a lot faster in percentage-wise. So these guys are flying around here, and therefore sort of aero comes into play a little bit. So we'll see if this groove moves around, but interesting to see it on the bottom early on.
A little bit of a different look on board Ray Alfala's 51 Toyota tonight. You took a look at his GTR entry as he rode around in position number 10. Further back, a look at this mess. It is nothing like you see in the top 10. Michael Guest a little bit slow that time off of 2, and around the outside goes Corey Vincent, the 24, going to sneak on by as well with Jake Nichols. So the inside was maybe the place to be very early on, but as we start to get into a groove, I mean, that outside is the passing lane right now. Guest could lose about 3 spots in a lap as he now gets attacked there by Blade Witt up top.
You see how quickly all these cars circle around the half mile. Pretty soon it'll be every inch of real estate taken, and that's where we see those yellows. You talk about it. You get out of the preferred lane, you get to the bottom, as we see right here, the 17 overtaking the 9 car. You know, when the 9 tries to squeeze up like he does right there in front of the 41, it's just so easy for contact to be made and a car to be turned around.
And I love when you see these packs like this here at Bristol. I mean, it's just hard to describe to people, especially from the outside view. What is it like in this awesome sort of drone shot here that we get to follow behind the cars here in iRacing? Couldn't possibly do this in real life, but I love seeing this use in the sim. Gives you a great idea of what we experience, which is that there's times where you're just constantly around cars. They're beside you, they're behind you, they're in front of you, and you're trying to hit your marks, you're trying to reference, and this is where, as a driver, you're getting into almost a rhythm of just listening to the car, sort of almost you're counting subconsciously when to lift, how much brake to use as you run different lines, because you can't even see the points. You know, as you watch this 18 car, he'll go behind that 9 down the straightaway. Then he'll pop out to the outside. Then he'll get covered again. Oh, there's the 9 tried to almost quick clear himself. That's just what Bristol is in a small way of what we experienced the entire time. It's so awesome.
Take the onboard perspective of Garrett Maines. He's in this battle that we've been following. The number 2 machine there started this race in 30th. He's 31st, and up the road, the 41 gonna slide up and take a huge shot. That was Dylan Duvall, who got way out of control after he made contact with Anthony Burrows going down into turn 1. And look at the front end damage on Garrett Maines, who had nowhere to go to avoid that one. And you do not want front end damage like that on lap 18 at 250.
Well, that's how fast it happens. I mean, you basically were on board with Garrett Maines in the 2. We saw the 41 have an issue, and you asked yourself, well, you can always slow down, but if you did that every time there was potentially an issue in front of you, you wouldn't have a chance. You have to continue to press, continue to be in your rhythm. The 41 slides up, and big damage to the nose of that 2 car.
My concern would be if you get front-end damage like that, you have to worry about some temperature issues, and we'll see if that's something that Garrett Maines is going to deal with over the course of this. Right-hand side, you'll see how all of this unfolded. You can see Maines up top. He's hard to miss there, right-hand side of the shot, but right there, just the slightest of touches. Duvall goes for quite a slide, and it almost looked like he had it saved, Parker, until that last step up the hill, and I mean, that happened in a split second that there was nothing Garrett Maines could do there, and we have seen incidents like that time and time again here at Bristol, both in the sim and the real world.
I think all of us, including Dylan Duvall and Garrett Maines, thought Dylan Duvall had saved that car as he got up the banking. But when you heat up that right rear, it can be sort of a tricky position where it wants to give up that grip all of a sudden, and that's what happened there. So as he had that huge slide, it heated up that right rear. Thought he had it caught, but had that wheel still cranked to the right, and that's when the car catch in the front, jumped him up the track, and went right in front of Garrett Maines. And as Steve said, that's just how fast things happen here. We see it all the time. The leader will run into a wreck. That happens on the other side of the racetrack because it's only 7 seconds away, maybe at times, or less than that. So it's really it's such a short time frame that you have to react to anything around this racetrack. It's always tough to miss incidents, and that's what just makes it the last great Coliseum that is. It's so tough and brutal to survive.
It is, and let's welcome in the 4th member of our broadcast team. Tim Terry is down on pit road with us. Tim, how's it going tonight?
Yeah, so far so good. Always great to be back at a short track, but we're watching the 8 of Michael Conti on your screen. He's glued to that inside line. Bobby Zielinski's been fighting about a lane up on this racetrack, and we're going to see this throughout the evening, boys, as this racetrack kind of rubbers in. We're going to see some drivers search But Michael Conti has said he likes that low line. Keep me on the inside line. It's the easiest to save tires around this racetrack, which is going to be another thing if we continue to go on with some green flag racing. These tires are going to wear, and we're going to see some drivers maybe save some stuff and bring it towards the front of the field when it all counts at the end of 250 laps tonight.
Good night for Conti so far. You can see he runs exactly where he started in fourth. In fact, nobody ahead of him has changed position either. Leahy, DeYoung, Zelensky, and Conti started 1, 2, 3, 4. That is the exact order they run in. Conti, of course, entering tonight 7th in the playoff standings, 4 points to the bad. Clearly having a good run here going to help him as he continues to try to look low. But it's a 3-car battle here for second, right? DeYoung, Zelensky, Conti. Conti really the only one continuing to work the bottom of this trio. Leahy is about a half a second up the road. You can see him in some of those wider shots. He did say that he felt like he could lead some laps early and is doing so right now. Perfect through 31.
And just to go back to what Tim Terry was saying there, great point about maybe tires. From what I've been hearing, talking to some of the drivers and crews, is that the right rear tire is really one that you want to protect and take care of over the long run. You know, you can go on a 100-lap run here in no time, so it's really about protecting that right rear, keeping it in the racetrack, not abusing it, not overheating it, and that should pay dividends later on. As we got some contact here as Taylor Hurst, that Bob Bryant down there in 77. Just have to see what we caught it a little bit late. It looked like maybe just a couple cars fighting for the same real estate.
That's like, what, 2 bits of contact we've seen, Parker, and both of them have involved your cars so far.
Hey, wait a second. Not liking this trend. Can we
move on? Clean it up by Thursday night.
Yes, apparently. The Lux Beans machines are taking a beating out there, but we'll hopefully get them tuned up, start cooking those beans, and go forward.
We'll get a second look at it as we continue to watch Taylor Hurst battle around the likes of Casey Kerwin. I see Vicente Salas there and others, but here's what happened. The 77 a little bit low and Hurst in the middle. Just really couldn't decide what lane he wanted once and then twice, and it was kind of a de facto 3-wide situation. Good catch for the 33. We race on, but again, another close call in the opening 50 laps of this Bristol night race. Look at this mess around the 3-car. Saw a lot of it in the opening laps with Corey Vincent. There is the other of those Clickerman Sport entries. Anthony Burrows on the bottom, but you got Justice. You got Reynolds as 44 got real loose coming off of the corner, trying to work the bottom.
What's surprising to me is up at the front, we saw the 83 and the 8 both run the bottom of the racetrack with some confidence, but back here mid-pack, it seems like the higher lane is the preferred lane. Once you get trapped on the bottom, you lose some ground. So I don't know if that's some patience at the front of the pack or if perhaps their cars are just driving better.
Looks like that 37 wants to find a way through. Can't go low because Reynolds is there at the moment, and can't go high because Corey Vincent is kind of the lead of this pack of cars. As we look back towards the front of the field, and you can see Bobby Zelensky still holding strong. There is nothing that the 83 can gain by winning another race, right? You can't take any bonus points into the championship for Steve. You're in it or you're not. So talking to your driver over the last 2 weeks since he got that Darlington race, what are they looking to get out of these next 2 weeks to prepare themselves for that championship at Texas?
Well, you have to remember, there's still an owner's points battle out there, and all the points score goes to that owner's points championship, the total of the 2 cars. So Bobby wants to score as many points for that. And the other thing is to perhaps eliminate some of your biggest competitors. I mean, if Bobby can go out and win this race and perhaps beat the 32 or the 23 or the 8 of Conti, or look at the bottom, maybe poor Parker and Bob Bryant right down there at the 77. If the 83 can take a win away from another car, it forces that other car to find their way through in points. So while we talk about the championship, and that's everyone's goals, it's also, a race. And all of these guys are professionals. They do an amazing job. And I really don't think you could turn it on and turn it off. I think you have to show up and try to race every race with the approach to win it. You don't want to get out of your rhythm as the championship looms a few weeks out.
And those live points are on the right-hand side, by the way. That's where that 77's down low, Parker. And because Keegan's leading, he tentatively jumps all the way up to the very top of the board with a win just because he's in the lead right now.
Well, I was just going to say, Steve sounds mighty confident after that win. But trying to knock a
confident that
team
we have it, that we're in it. That's the only thing I'm confident about.
I can tell that. Knocking us while we're down right now, obviously. There's another luck speed machine, but I think, as you put it, Steve, though, that's part of it, especially for all of these guys, is that you can't turn it off and then turn it back on. These are professionals. They put so much effort into these races, into these seasons, that you just have to continue that level of dedication, effort to be prepared and ready for that big game moment that you're going to have when you get into that championship 4 and have to put it all on the line to win the championship.
Well, we spend so much time late in the season talking about what the playoff drivers are fighting for, right? Well, everybody else, of course, is fighting to avoid relegation. Our Countdown to Green crew talked a lot about that, how the eNASCAR Road to Pro Contender Series is currently underway, close to deciding the top 20 drivers in that, which will face the bottom 20 in this series to fight to re-qualify for this championship for 2022. And here is the battle of the rest. You can see that, how about the 51 car? This was the big story last year. Ray Alfala dropped out of the championship, was forced to re-qualify in, dominated in that qualifier series. Well, right now he is -5 to securing himself a spot on the grid next season. And wins do not factor into any of this, Steve. So, you talk about how you got Bobby Zalenski locked in, but the first thing you said tonight pre-race was, man, I wish it was 2, right? Going back to that Chris Yearburn thing earlier. Well, Chris is in a battle to be in this for next season.
He is. He's currently just below in the teens as they run currently. And Chris had a great start of the season, got that win. As we see 3 and almost 4 wide, I'm not sure that's going to work.
They are racing everywhere right now, by the way. I don't want to cut you off, but this is incredible.
Oh, it is. And this is why we see the yellows, because even the best in the world cannot continue to run 3 wide on this racetrack without sliding up inside and making some sort of contact, as you see beating and banging. And they are trying to throw a yellow. They're trying to get a yellow out. But, Chris had a little bit of a slow summer, and now he has to find his way back above that 20th place spot to make sure he's around in this series next year. You can't assume, if you get relegated below, that you're going to have a great season and you'll find your way back up. It's not that easy. Even though Ray made it look easy, we all know it's not.
This battle is for
Steve,
29th on back. So this is, they're racing like they're battling for the race lead. Well, it's in the 30s.
Well, but they are. But remember, the leader is coming too. So this is one of the things we see in the Cup Series, and we see it here in the Coke Series, and that is when you get back in the high 20s, low 30s of the Cup Series or here in the Coke Series on a short track like this, you're not only racing the competitors around you, but you are racing the leader, who will be on your back bumper very soon, and therefore you do not want to go a lap down. So then you start to race the hardest you'll ever race in your entire life is in these positions right here. The car's maybe not driving how you want. Everyone's taking every chance they can get to make a move and to try to impede your progress. And it's absolutely some of the most just down, drag out racing there is. But for relegation, that is one of the things I think people, when they hear that about eNASCAR, is one of the coolest things there is. And it's always a talking point. It's always such a high pressure point for these drivers. As you put it, Steve, there's no guarantee you're going to make it back up, even if you've been here for years, because those lower levels become more and more competitive. As more people are watching eNASCAR, as more people get iRacing subscriptions, as more people want to be a part of what we do and at being a professional sports racer, you're going to have more talent coming through there. So it's definitely a highly, highly competitive scenario to be in, and it's just one of the things I think that makes us so unique that we can do in sim racing you can't do in the real world.
Picking back up your race leader, he is starting to catch some of that lap traffic. 39 of the 40 drivers who started this race are still on the lead lap. And I mentioned a countdown to green a little bit ago. Had the opportunity to see Elliott Sadler join the coverage, and we'll welcome Elliott back into our broadcast now. Elliott, we appreciate a little bit of extra time. I got to ask, we talk about all these drivers getting involved in the sim, and I just want to know how you got involved initially with not only just iRacing generally, but kind of the competitive aspects of the service.
Well, kind of how we got started at Elliott Sadler Esports is I just got into iRacing, kind of just, running some fixed races, maybe doing some league races, some money races, doing some different things. And I just ran across a couple guys that I had known from the go-karting industry. And they kind of like, hey, let's start a team or let's join a team and see how they do things to do this Road to Pro. Road to Pro was going on at the time. guys trying to qualify to make it to the Pro Series. So I ran a couple of those races and was feeling my way through it. But the team I was involved with, I was like, man, we don't really do it like this in the NASCAR world. So me and a couple buddies kind of got together and started Elliott Sadler Esports, and we kind of run it like a NASCAR Cup Series team where, we're all on the same page, the way we communicate. We have engineers, we have marketing guys, we have PR people, we have sponsor partners, and we all run it as one group. And that's kind of the path we went down. So it kind of started last year with RTP and hooking up with Garrett Maines and Vicente Salas and just kind of going down that road and then following them into the Pro Series and working hard. And then now into the Coca-Cola Series, which is where we're at now. It's been a short, fast, quick road to very hard racing and very competitive racing. But we feel very happy by, how we're competing right now, what we're learning, and kind of direction we're going.
And right on board with one of your drivers here, Ashton Crowder, in that number 1 NutriDag Solutions entry. Parker's got a team, Steve has got a team. So for you to be back at this level again, I know, and competing with your own team has to be exciting. How involved are you, though, on some of those day-to-day operations with Elliott Sadler Esports?
So I am very involved. When I started this Elliott Sadler Esports, I wanted to be hands-on because people helped me when I got started in NASCAR. People gave me a break, gave me a platform, helping open doors, and I want to do the same thing. So I'm very hands-on from a day-to-day basis. Not only what's taking place on the racetrack, but what are we doing outside of the racetrack? How are we handling our sponsors and our partners and giving them the right content? Are we doing everything we need to do to be a good iRacing partner? But I'll start with the on-track stuff first. So my whole life in NASCAR for 25 years, we raced, we tested, and then we look at data and we look at telemetry. And then when I came in and started ESC, a lot of my guys didn't use telemetry. And I'm like, whoa, we're missing the boat here. So we've really worked hard on, with my lead, of using telemetry, making sure we've got the car where we need it, at the right platform, with the downforce and the drag, and using all 4 tires as much as we need to. So I'm very involved with myself and a couple of my engineers now that we have on staff to make sure that we're getting the most out of it. I'm trying to use my experience from racing on, this is what I think we need to look at moving forward. And I think some of it really translate. Some of it is a little muddy, and that's what I have to learn, as an outsider kind of coming into the iRacing world. But I've really enjoyed running a lot of laps. I mean, a lot of laps, and a lot of group testing, and a lot of telemetry, and a lot of moving things around to see how each thing's react. My son Wyatt does a lot of testing. He does more the qualifying side. He doesn't want to run a 50-lap run. He wants to run as wide open as much as he can all the way around and then make adjustments. So as a family, we really try to help from that side as much as we can. And then race strategy. Guys, this is what I'm thinking. Darlington, for example, race the racetrack. You got to run up against the wall, save your tires as much as you can. Just little things like that. I kind of like to give them tidbits on what I think from an experience side to see if I can help them.
Well, we'll let you get back to tune it into the race. Ashton running there inside of the top 10. So I'd appreciate the time. To mention that he was a 2001 Bristol winner, but just in case you didn't see that, he had the trophy framed up perfectly in the backdrop. Even if it's the sim, it is still real fun to win at some of these historic racetracks. And everybody wants to say they won at Bristol as we take it on board look with the 2311 duo, working through some thick lap traffic. 80 laps in to this 250 lap race, and if anytime you get any sort of green flag run, I mean, this is the majority of what you're dealing with as a lead lap car.
And this is where Keegan said he was not going to be that strong. He said, I don't think my car is as good at the bottom. We talked to him before the start of the race. He wanted to try and stay up top, but if you want to get by all of those lappers in front of him that are running up top, he's going to have to make the bottom work. And I love this moment at Bristol. Steve, I don't know if there's anywhere we race in all NASCAR that sort of has this moment where the leaders are this close together and they are looking at an absolute pack of cars and thinking, all right, how am I going to navigate my way through this?
And it's a balance, right? Your car has to be good. Your spotter has to communicate with you. But the driver also kind of has to feel the energy of the lap, feel where he's good, kind of guess what the car in front of him is doing as we ride on board of the young and the 23. You know, Leahy's just in front of him, but just behind Mitchell is Bobby Zielinski, only a couple tenths of a second back, Michael Conti. So the pressure is there for all of the top four. Mitchell and Leahy as teammates working very well together right here. Mitchell almost giving a little space. The difference, though, is behind him, the 83 is Zielinski and Michael Conti really pushing. And right behind Conti, Graham Bolin. I mean, they're stacked up here.
Well, we talked about this last week at Darlington, right? The different wheels that drivers would use. And Steve, you mentioned that you felt like using one of those open wheel style rims would also be a little bit of a disadvantage of sorts. Worked for Bobby Zielinski, and we saw the same thing out of Mitchell DeYoung there, running in the number 2 position, still running that open wheel formula style rim as we take a look at the battle for second position on back. The only change in all of this is Graham Bolin. He was able to pass up Nick Ottinger earlier in this run, and he nearly had a run-in with Bobby Zielinski a couple of laps ago. Those two had some words on the radio as Bolin tried to squeak to his outside. No harm, no foul, but just saying, if those cars end up next to each other, don't expect them to use kid gloves as this race continues to race itself on. And right now you're looking at 35 cars still on the lead lap. Novak is the last of them, and he is the one directly in front of Keegan Leahy. So he is in no rush to get out of the way and yield to the driver of that 32 Toyota. Here's another on-board look back with Bob Bryant running in 17th position and Vicente Salas in 18th. They are the third and second lowest running drivers of the playoff cars. They are only running higher than Jimmy Mullis, who sits in 30th position, and they are just on the cusp again of these race leaders starting to cycle around to some of these other positions. They're fighting aggressively against each other, and looks like Vicente has that 77 pinned out to the outside line where he'll get those runs off the corners. Guys, the best laps tonight early on were mid to high 14 seconds. It's right up on the door with Vicente that time. I mean, again, here he goes. Look out.
He's trying to pull a slide job here, but just isn't quite getting far enough up.
I thought you had to clear to do a slide job. I guess not.
Well, yeah, you gotta have way more speed on the bottom. As Bob sort of bounces off the wall a little bit, these two are full contact. Bristol Racing. I was gonna say the contrast from what we saw from Mitchell DeYoung, where he has barely steering right at all, and then you go to these two who are running back here, and their wheels are going to the right constantly. Obviously, they've burnt off that right rear tire. They're really struggling with the grip on the exit. And I saw some of the commenters on Twitch saying that, you know, they were wondering about that Formula wheel that Mitchell uses. That, you know, we see also Zielinski uses that, and why you'd use that in a stock car. And I'll tell you, look, if you could get one of those to work with a steering box fast enough in a real-life stock car, you'd probably use it. But we don't have that possibility. So I think it's one of those things where it's, you're comfortable, it's something you fall in love with and what you want to use. But I think in real life, we've consistently gone to faster steering boxes and smaller wheels, and they might still be round, and some have a little bit of different shape. But really, we just can't get to probably the level of speed you'd want in the wheel to be able to run with those. But if we could, I would suspect you would see more of those types of wheels in NASCAR. You'd be surprised.
Looks like Vicente's been able to get away from this battle. Poor Bob Bryant still getting beaten up on a little bit further back. These guys have broken out the chrome horn just before they nearly took each other out. I was talking lap times, and the fall off we have seen is about a second and a half, Tim, since those very opening laps.
And Evan, I cannot repeat on the broadcast what Vicente said on the radio. He was not happy with Bob Bryant with that little battle, but he's got by and he's starting to pick off some positions. A part of that battle as well was the 9 of Michael Guest right in behind the 55 of Vicente. He had some headset issues. It would be the equivalent of, in a real race car, the radio kind of dying in the middle of the run. The good thing is he was able to grab another headset and get in, but he said he kind of skated the car around a little bit and lost a little bit of the tires. And about to go a lap down, boys, is the 46 of Jimmy Mullis. He is complaining that car is not in the racetrack right now. It's skating around, and he is going a lap down to the 32.
Well, Parker, I won't force you to defend your driver, Bob Bryant, but I have to be on Bob's side. I know Salas was disappointed, but Bob had the outside lane for all of those slides, and it just didn't work out, as now we see a yellow on the racetrack.
may it have been the 77 machine of Bob Bryant. Just as we were talking about him, I said that he was getting beat up, and I think somebody might have finished him off. We had gotten through 101 laps, caution-free, to open this Bristol night race, and now we will slow things down, interestingly enough, shy of halfway and shy of the fuel window to get to the end. You're watching a battle between Bob Bryant and Blade Witt for 23rd and 24th, and Parker, I'll let you take this one.
Oh, just a little bump there. We saw Bob was struggling pretty mightily off the corner with the right rear. I think he was, maybe it burnt that off a little bit. And as we like to say in racing, if you see the left side of that Luck Speeds machine, it's beat up a little bit. Well, if the left side is beat up, that means you're going laps, as I think Darrell Waltrip would say. And if the right side is beat up, probably going forwards. And,
what if both sides are beat up? Because I think the 77 had the left and the right.
Well, then you're just struggling. You're struggling. Yeah, I'm going to blame you because you mentioned his name and then he was spun out. So
I was defending him. I was trying.
Race leader is going to come down to the pit lane. Remember the split pit roads here at Bristol, so your race leader is going to drive all the way through that first set, and they will actually head into the box the next time by. Keegan Leahy has been dominant so far as we step aside. He's looking for a win to fight for a championship in 2021.
We've learned to savor the moments that were always there. And they never tasted this good.
I am a driver with a dream. And part of that dream is making all the doubters believe that my name belongs here. I may be new to some, but I am not to be taken lightly.
Oh, and now they're really going at it. Yeah, they are.
Because if you let your guard down, I will rise above. I am the NASCAR Xfinity Series. I am NASCAR.
It doesn't matter where you're from, who you grew up rooting for, what you grew up watching, your home track, your favorite car, the series you've always wanted to race in. When you're ready to know what it's like, we're here, bringing you as close to the action as it gets with the ultimate sim racing experience. With a community of hundreds of thousands just like you. This is iRacing, and here, every day is race day.
We're back live at Bristol. Coverage of tonight's race brought to you by Coca-Cola, the official fan refreshment of eNASCAR. By DoorDash, proud sponsor of 2311 Racing. And by Playseat, the official racing chair of eNASCAR. First caution flag going to go behind us. We'll take 143 laps to go in the Bristol night race. Let's go on board. Well, clean restart gets things back underway, and once again, Keegan Leahy breaks through. The big winner as we take a look off of the bottom of Colossus, hanging over the middle infield here at Bristol, is that Logan Clampett. Big winner on pit road, guys. He had snuck up to P6 before the caution, restarted in 4th. He's at a race-high P3 and looking for more, trying to get underneath here, that 23 machine of DeYoung for 2nd.
The balance right here is, are you attacking or are you playing defense? The 97 of Clampett continues to attack. It looks like right now he is a good chance of sliding up into 2nd if he can clear himself. But if he can't, he has the potential of losing a spot to either Conti or the 87 behind him. Excuse me, the 83.
And that's the risk you run here at Bristol. You can get these opportunities to get to the inside. We see this in real life all the time. If the bottom is not the dominant, or even if it is, you get times where if you just don't take the positive momentum early, if you don't take it right away, maybe within a corner or lap, then you can get stuck like this, side by side, and eventually something has to give. It's either one of the cars, maybe the bottom just decides, all right, we're using up our stuff too much, we're not going to be able to clear each other. Let me just let you go. Oh, Logan drives in, there's a lapper there to having to go around, so that always gets tight. That's what you're hoping for in an event that sort of moves, that shakes things up a little bit. You go on board, Logan Clampett at the top left, Conti on the bottom left, and these two are roommates, racing each other all the time, racing each other for this championship. But look at this, these guys are so close, and Logan knocked them up there below Mitchell.
They could probably save some bandwidth if they just turned Logan's camera to the right just a little bit, because you can see Michael's leg and you can see one of his monitors. Again, those guys racing out of the same room and in exciting battle, both at the running inside of the top 4. And Michael, the onboard shot on the right-hand side, has the best angle of all of it. Really thought that 97 to Clampett was going to get the job done here. He stormed up to the inside of DeYoung about 5 laps off of the restart, but 23 is doing a very good job of fighting back, and he has that defensive position, putting the onus on the 97 here to either make the move, get in front of him, or concede this battle and tuck in line behind. But I mean, the 97's doing everything he can. He's washing up on the 23. He's putting it on his door. Keeping it clean, though, in a battle for 2nd and 3rd. They're not really losing a ton of speed here. I thought that maybe Keegan would have been able to get some track position out of this battle, but here's the look off at the back of the race leader as it looks like DeYoung is slowly starting to gain an advantage.
Well, I think this is one of those situations where you got to read the race, as we do often, no matter where we race. And you look at what we just did. We had a 101-lap green flag run. I think a lot of guys we saw there were caught off guard at not protecting their tires, not taking care of them appropriately, not having the right rear there late in the run at 101 laps to have the grip that they wanted. And so when I look at what Mitchell and Logan Clampett were doing there, I get worried that you're beating up those tires a little bit unnecessarily, whereas Keegan Leahy, yeah, he's not driving away, but he might just be taking care of that right rear tire to have that longevity, looking at this race and thinking, all right, we just did 101 laps. This could go green again for 100 laps, and you've got to have that tire.
Well, if we have the 97 of Logan Clampett, the big winner in the cycle, the loser in the cycle is going to be Graham Bolin. We're on board with him currently in the 9th position. We saw him up inside the top 4 or 5, but between the cycle of the pit stop and the restart, he has fallen back to the 9th position.
We talked about Graham's thrilling victory at Watkins Glen earlier this year. That locked him into a postseason position. Graham entered tonight 6 points out of a playoff position, scored 8 of 10. So, you know, to be 8th but only be 6 points out tells you how tight it was after just one race with that playoff opener. He is the 6th highest playoff driver in the field at the moment, behind playoff cars who run consecutively 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And one thing you don't see on the onboard there was Graham's got a little bit of right rear damage. That could have come from a car or could have come from the fence. Doesn't seem to be hurting him, but Graham Bolin no longer a squeaky clean night. Further back in the battle for 23rd position, you can see Jake Nichols is following Dylan Duvall on the outside. That's John Gorlinski, who goes bottom to top of the 16 and opens up the door for Blade Witt to drive through on the inside. Garrett Main's back there as well. A bunch of non-playoff guys in that relegation battle racing hard. We saw that damage that Maines picked up earlier in this race, guys. That was when he was running about 31st position. He's up to P26, so it's not terminal damage, but I'm always going to wonder how much of an effect it may be having on that number 2 as we're now past halfway home in this second race of the playoffs.
We had a quick onboard with him late in that green flag run before he got that damage fixed. He's having to clutch it just to keep the engine cool, which is, when you have that front end damage, puts you in a really precarious position. He was still making good lap times, so that was pretty impressive of him to do, and now get some of that damage fixed and to take that car up to where he has. That's a very impressive recovery and just a run in general.
And the onboard here is with the 24 of Jake Nichols. You can see some back-end damage on Dylan Duvall up the road. Jake looks pretty locked in. He's gained 4 positions in his Mode Motorsports Ford since the start of the race. Some drivers up the road include Brad Davies, Garrett Lowe, and others. But the fight for second continues on. Lampett had kind of given it up for a moment, tucked in line for about a half a dozen laps or so, and then tried it again that time. Can't do so. It is pretty locked in right now to position number 3. His +8 is the biggest mover inside of the top 10 in this race. Again, ahead of Conti and ahead of last week's winner, Bobby Zelensky, in the number 5 position. We talk about how important qualifying is sometimes, and it's got to be at least 8 of the races so far this year. So half of all races in 2021, the pole sitter has been a 2311 car, and I feel like in a lot of those it's been a front row lockout. I mean, these guys have just been so impressive, but even more impressive that Leahy and Young have been able to control first and second to this point in the race. So those guys have been so dominant in Q, and good to see that they're getting rewarded for that as we step back and take a look at the battle for 11th position. Casey Kerwin looking to the outside, trying to get around Chris Shearburn in the battle for position number 10. Casey Kerwin's got some good history here at Bristol, the 2019 race winner.
A nice move around the outside. That's really a patent way to do it. You just get to the quarter panel, take the position, and you see the 36 of Shearburn with that back truck entry. Just can't power up off the bottom of the racetrack. He kind of hold his own on quarter entry, but for middle and exit, using the bottom, trying to save that right rear, trying to stay off the cars on the outside, you just can't do it. And for that reason, the 36 will lose 3 spots just by getting held to the bottom of the racetrack. This battle up front continues, though. First, second, third on top of each other. 97 of Clampett continues to run the bottom with 23 up the racetrack. The Conti in 4th also looking higher.
Steve, this is what I love about top-level sim racing you see in the eNASCAR series is this right here, where you have 5 or 6 cars that are so obviously so closely matched. And, the thing is, they can all run their own setups, right? They all develop setups for their friends, teammates, and the people they work with, and maybe within their teams. But then you get to the race, and because they're all obviously identical cars in terms of physics, which we don't have in real life, you get to where there's just fractions, minute differences that make the difference between being Keegan Leahy or being Logan Clampett. And when you see Logan trying to make this pass, what he's trying to do is find just tiny fractions of a difference between his car, what he's doing in it, versus Mitchell DeJong, and just trying to find that little bit and get that little bit of momentum to make that pass or find that event which Mitchell maybe makes a small mistake and he can capitalize on it. I just think that's one of the most fascinating things about this. Look at all these cars, lead cars, just in a train together, so evenly matched. It's amazing.
It's hard to find any differences, and that's what you're going to get. You mentioned top-level sim racing, and these are 40 of the very best. We talk about how, the relegation is such a fascinating aspect of this. I join you, Parker, in the opinion that I think that's one of my favorite things about this series, right? Is it is always so intense to be able to stay in, because you know that if you go down to that qualifier series, it's going to be far more competitive than any qualifier series has ever been, because more drivers are trying to get to this level year after year, and it forces you to be better, to find those thousands over the course of a career, or over the course of a season, or maybe in this case, in the battle for second and third, find those thousands of a second over the course of a battle, in a race and in a run, and forces drivers to be super competitive. We are inside of 100 laps to go. Let's take in the sights and sounds of Bristol Motor Speedway and go iRacing full throttle. Well, that's a look from the driver's seat here at Bristol Motor Speedway. And Parker, just watching those made me think, right? I feel like you got to get tired when you're lapping 15-second lap times like that. Yes, on the sim, it is not like being in the race car at 120 degrees, but you've done both. When you do a race like this at Bristol or some of the other longer endurance type stuff here on the iRacing service, do you get physically tired? Is it mentally fatiguing? I mean, where does that set in since you've experienced both?
Well, I sweat a ton. I sweat sometimes more than I will in the real car. So I think it's intense as it comes. I actually was watching that and I was thinking, there's nothing, and I'm not just saying this obviously because I'm a big fan of iRacing, there's nothing that gets my brain so immersed into the, so close to what it would be like to be in the actual car as iRacing. And when I'm watching those late in a run, the tires have fallen off, trying to move your lane around, you see the rubber is laid across the track. I mean, that just is so realistic, and I just can't tell you, how much that just immerses me in the sense and the feeling of being in the real car. I'm going to be racing this Thursday. I literally was watching that thinking about things I need to be doing in the truck this coming Thursday late in a run because of what I was watching right there. And that's just how realistic it is. I've driven all the manufacturer sims. Those are great at helping you maybe learn some intricacies that are a little bit more dependent on the actual car and the setup stuff. But in terms of immersing you in what if you race a stock car at Bristol or any of these tracks, there's nothing that comes close to iRacing. It's just one of the most incredible things about this is we watch all these drivers, Casey Kerwin there up on the top left, and Vicente Salas on the bottom, racing different lanes. The rubber is laid down, their tires are going away. It's just amazing how realistic this is.
And I'm shocked at the different rigs, like Vicente Salas. Like his steering wheel angle just amazes me, Parker. It's like 90 degrees. There's no angle to that wheel.
Yeah, it is. I love that bit. You see we have some using Formula car rims, some using round rims. You saw this sort of the in-between GT style rim that Ray Alfaro is running. And then it's where you place it, right? Sort of Casey Kerwin has that up top, and then you have the different move for Vicente Salas. But Tim, you have more from some of the drivers down there.
Yeah, this is a nice little battle we're watching right now between Casey Kerwin and Vicente Salas, and Vicente has not been happy with the way Casey Kerwin has been holding him up. Casey's just kind of holding his line right now, trying to keep Vicente behind. The radio has been fairly colorful the last couple of laps with these two drivers and these two crews. In behind them, though, is Matt Busa. About 15 laps ago, his crew chief, Jason Brophy, said, less than 100 laps to go, it's time to go, and he said 10-4 copy, and he's coming towards the front of the field, too. This is a Matt Busa type race, boys. It seems like it's playing out a little bit longer, and the 75 usually likes those long runs.
Doing a good job running exactly where he started in 13th as we pick up the battle for second once more. Talking about some of that radio chatter, it was just about a lap or two ago that Casey said over the radio, do you think in a million years you're going to be able to pass me like that? Because Vicente got into him. That's only the radio chatter that the drivers are comfortable saying on the open channel. Tim gets to hear all the good stuff as he listens in to some of those private channels down on pit road as, again, we watch Mitchell DeYoung play defense against Logan Clampett. And when the outside appears to be the place to be, and you're forcing that car to, again, do it the hard way, right? To do it down on the inside line. I mean, how intense is this, Parker, for Mitchell, right? I mean, when Logan's alongside him, is he sweating it? Is he racing really hard? Or, I don't know if relaxed is the right way to say it, but is he a little bit more content knowing that he's in the spot that he wants to be in?
Well, it's kind of funny because when you're that control lane car, right? He's in the outside, the preferred lane. It's sort of a, give me your best shot, right? In terms to Logan is what he's saying. And therefore, it's really, you're in sort of the best position as well. He actually went to the bottom there, let Logan maybe get to the outside. This is going to get the pass done, I think. Maybe just hand him one here, which I was going to say, when you're in that control lane, you can kind of just run there and let them do their thing. And as Logan's definitely going to make this pass up top, that's pretty impressive to get done. I don't know if Mitchell maybe was just thinking, hey, look, we've used our tires up a lot. We're really beating these up. It has a green flag feel. Maybe I'll just let you go, stop trying to fight you and fend you off and see if I can protect some more tire to save for the end, as these leaders will eventually catch traffic and you're going to want to have all the tire you can.
You were just spending so much time, Steve, talking about how, Mitchell was in the better position because he had his spot, and the second Logan Clampett got to the outside, he passed him like it was nothing. that was after, this has been a stint that's been about 78 laps long. He's been hounding Mitchell for the better part of that, but the second he got to the outside, got it done in a heartbeat, and is now pulled away significantly from the young, and is trying to close in on the race leader.
Yeah, I'm surprised that Mitchell allowed the 97 to get to his outside. I think coming here, we thought the top was going to be the primary lane. It's proven to be, especially on old tires. So the number one goal is to protect it. Even though the 97 is running the bottom for good lap time, I think the passes will be around the top.
Watching a battle now between the 1 and the 18 car, between
100%.
Femi Olat and Ashton Crowder, back in 17th and 18th position. I want to remind you that if you're enjoying the on-track action and want to get involved, now's the time to do so, because with iRacing, every day is race day. For more information on how to start your sim racing career, log on to iRacing.com today. And if you want to follow along as we race towards the 2021 championship race in this eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing series, you can stay up to date with the schedule, the standings, and info on how maybe you could one day qualify to be in this series at iRacing.com/eNASCAR. 60 laps to go, guys. We pitted again just past that lap number 100 marker. Can we get to the end, or do we still have a pit stop to go?
I believe we can get to the end.
I was wondering the same thing. What do you think, Steve?
I'm hearing from the teams. I know we said about the 125 mark, but I'm hearing for the teams that can run a little bit longer, maybe 140, 145 laps, as you talked about, as tires go off, fuel gets a little bit better, and I think these teams can stretch it all the way if need be.
Well, doing the math, if they can go,
that would be a lot.
they would have to get 146 laps from the time this race restarted to the time that they get to the end, Tim.
We talked about some shifting and some changing. Ryan Luza is racing on a generator this evening, boys. Power outage at his place, so they had to switch some things around. So Ryan is on some backup power here this evening as he tries to bring this into the front.
You got to be prepared for
That's
every
amazing.
situation.
Yeah, I mean, look, that's sim racing. We talked about it. We've heard of what drivers that have had to go to a friend's house and use a different rig they were unfamiliar with at times. We've got now a driver in Ryan Luza having to use a generator to power his rig. You got to do what it takes. It's no different than racing in the real world, where sometimes you've got to make do with some subpar circumstances. It's just like that in sim racing, where you've got to find a way and get that rig up and running just like a regular race car.
I'm going to
I've
tell
had
you guys,
drivers
there's
race on my rig, Steve. Guys have come to my house to race because they're out of town and they want to make a race. That's how willing they are to do anything.
Yeah, listen, I've tried all kinds of different rigs. None of them work for my lack of talent. I've tried every one out there. Some are more comfortable, but they're all just as slow. And pressure at the front of the field has picked up. Leahy has been caught by Logan Clampett in the 97. Obviously more pace around the bottom. Now can the 97 get to the right rear quarter panel of the 32? Leahy had better protect. He cannot run the middle of the racetrack. The 97 will jump on his outside.
I wonder if Keegan learned
really
that.
Strong right now.
Yeah, I mean, he's been so quick. Mitchell's 2 seconds behind in third, right? I mean, Clampett has this pace. He has made 9 positions over the course of this race after he started back at 11th spot. And Keegan just said to all these lap cars, please give me the outside. He does not want to go to the bottom. He knows that he could get stuck down there like Logan was once upon a time, struggling with Mitchell. And I have to think that he learned by watching that battle for second in his rearview mirror. And of course, those guys are teammates communicating that he does not want to allow Logan to get to his outside if he wants to defend this race lead. But certainly, it looks like the 97's the better of the two right now, and he got in the fence that time. Some sparks shower off of the 32. So Keegan's pushing this race car right now. He's driving very aggressively, trying to hold off that 97.
Well, remember the 32
And
is on
that
point.
got to put a grin. Well, yeah, and that's got to be a grin on Logan's face because he's seen him go off of that corner and slide up. And you think what these two are battling for? They're battling for the chance to be good for champion. And now, with less than 50 laps to go, we saw how ill-handling these cars were at 101 laps.
And that 97 is the instigator in the battle for the race lead. We'll take one more opportunity to step aside. Keegan Leahy, Logan Clampett fighting for a ticket to the championship race, watching the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series playoffs at Bristol.
We've learned to savor the moments that were always there. And they never tasted this good.
Elimination at Bristol. What a way to go out. It's Bristol, baby. Under the lights with nowhere to hide. Where fenders don't just get bent. They get slammed, dragged, and dropped off. And where 4 drivers' seasons will be swallowed whole by the deafening roar of the last great Coliseum. The NASCAR playoffs continue at Bristol, Saturday on NBCSN.
It doesn't matter where you're from, who you grew up rooting for, what you grew up watching, your home track, your favorite car, the series you've always wanted to race in. When you're ready to know what it's like, we're here, bringing you as close to the action as it gets with the ultimate sim racing experience. With a community of hundreds of thousands just like you. This is iRacing, and here, every day is race day.
And back live from the virtual Bristol Motor Speedway, coverage of tonight's race brought to you by Coca-Cola, the official fan refreshment of eNASCAR. By Asus, the official gaming hardware partner of the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. And by Logitech G and the Logitech G923, the official wheel and pedal of the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. Into the home stretch here from the virtual Bristol Motor Speedway, Logan Clampett is on the hunt. You're on board with the Logitech G camera, with the driver riding right now in second. That is the look, as he is the hunter in this battle for the top position. However, as we stepped aside and went side by side there, Keegan has grown his advantage. It went from the 97 to being plastered on the deck lid to Keegan Leahy boasting about a 4 or 5 tenth of a second advantage. Tim now inside of 30 laps remaining.
And the biggest thing that Logan Clampett is complaining about right now, Evan, he is losing grip. He got to the back porch of that number 32 of Keegan Leahy. That car started to slide a little bit, and he said to his crew he was losing grip. His crew came back to him and said, you guys are going to catch traffic. You'll be able to catch him through that traffic and make the pass for the lead. So keep that in mind as we go through these final 30 laps.
And the fuel number continues, Steve, to be the story. We said that if you could get from the restart to the checkered flag, that your magic number would need to be 146. As we take a look at Michael Conti, who just made a pass here on Bobby Zelensky. Some other fighting towards the tail end of this top 10. Hearing some drivers may not be safe, and some may be anywhere from 5 to 10 laps short. We'll only have to watch to see it play out, but if that's true, they'd be coming down pit road with about 10 laps.
Well, and when we talk about different racetracks, there are some of the big 1.5-mile, 2-mile tracks where you have the opportunity to clutch the car, not use any brake, kind of roll around here. As we were riding on board with Clampett on the in-car a minute ago, you heard about the amount of throttle he was using. It's just very hard to find a lot of fuel savings here. Now, while 2 laps seems like a lot, I'll remind everybody it's only 5 miles, 2 laps at Daytona. But I'm just not sure that you can find 6, 7, 8, or 10 laps. So we'll have to see who has the best fuel economy as the laps wind down.
Sounds like all of the playoff drivers may be good on fuel. We'll see if these drivers are going to be able to go the distance. And then the question is, of course, if you need a little bit of extra time and overtime later in this race, you would expect drivers to come down for tires anyways, as there's Bobby Zelensky completing the pass on Conti. The 8 car crosses him back over down to the inside. So swapping it out in a battle right here for 6th and 7th position. Live points has Conti out by 8. For Zelensky locked in with that win last week, and Leahy tentatively up to P2 in the standings as he continues to lead this race, into which he has been absolutely dominant in thus far.
He has been, and one of the most impressive things, if I don't sound like a robot, has been that his ability to drive back away from Logan Clampett, who got right there to him, was running him down. It seemed like the strongest car on the racetrack, and then Keaton Leahy was able to stretch the lead a little bit more. Maybe was saving his tires. We saw him slide into the wall a little bit, but definitely has found a little something here as they've caught traffic to get away from Logan Clampett, which is pretty impressive.
To give the fans an idea, these guys started at about a 14.7, 14.8 second bracket for their lap times. Currently 16 flat for the leader, so slow down over 1 second because of the tire fall off. That's where I think some of the fuel economy comes from, is just they're out of the gas because they're running a second slower.
And you can see your top 3 as we take in the beautiful sights of a night race at Bristol. Virtual, real, doesn't matter. Good place to catch a race. You can see at the top of your screen, your top 3 drivers now has Ryan Luza in 3rd. For much of this race, playoff drivers had run 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, right? That's been the talking point, but a couple of drivers are really good late in this run. There's the 4 of Luza. He's up to a race high P3, about 1.4 seconds off, and a caution late in this race. It is Graham Bolin, who has had issues. You just saw that 10 car come back around. Oh, now we're wrecking again under the caution flag. More drivers just wrecked under the yellow. Zach Novak was involved. Kane Cook also involved. And I think I saw somebody else, Ashton Crowder maybe. So a lot happened here at once. And now, well, this race gets flipped on its head. Forget about the fuel strategy. We got a shootout coming up next. Let's see what happened to the 10 of Bolin. And this is big. 2 playoff drivers. Vicente gets into him and sends the 10 car around.
Just looks like a little bit of a lack of patience. You can see the right rear of Graham Bolin's car is beat up, maybe from hitting from already hitting the wall maybe or something. And then Vicente just gave him that little bit of a tap. The tires are so far gone on these cars. It just takes that little bit. And then we had this incident. That's Ashton Crowder. Hold. It's just chaos ensues. This is what we've normally seen out of Bristol wrecks, where they, suddenly one car hits off another and, the chain reaction occurs. So 2 wrecks almost simultaneously happening late in this race, and there's one driver who probably did not want to see this, and that was Keegan Leahy, who had this race in control. Now has to fend them off with new tires.
Well, back to the original
wreck. He just got it figured out, Steve.
Well, I was going to say, back to the original wreck, Vicente Salas, we've heard him on the radio a couple times tonight. He's just seemed to be either feeling the pressure of the playoffs or just a little impatient. You know, he's been mad at 2 or 3 different drivers, and then I just feel like made contact with the 10, sent him off into the corner. So I have to put that one on Salas, as we see the 32 and 97 look like they'll leave pit road in the same order they entered.
Gente came into this race 2 points out of a playoff position. Graham Bolin came in 6 points out. Contact in any manner, not good business for anybody. The point that I was making about cars that were making a late charge wasn't quite done yet. Luza had gotten third, guys, but I was going to say watch out for Steven Wilson, who has gained 27 spots and has driven up to position number 5. I wonder if this late race restart and him being much closer could help him out as well. He and Luza were very good. Can they have that speed on the short run, or was it really just a long run thing? And this restart will be likely at about 11 laps to go. You saw a quick look there at your live points. Keegan has been oh so dominant. I don't know if the stat sheet will actually reflect that he has led every single lap of this race tonight, just because we pitted under yellow, you got split pit roads, and also that pit cycle a little bit earlier on in the race as well. But for all intents and purposes, he has absolutely been perfect, and he will have to survive one more go at it on a restart. There's Wilson up to P5, and you know, Leahy had been really good, guys, on those first 2 restarts of the night, but I mean, he's got a lot of fast race cars, including that man right there, including fellow playoff competitor Logan Clampett, who's going to be right alongside.
This is going to be interesting because he was fastest in qualifying. This is a short run. He was worried about his maybe long run pace, but he's proved that to be not an issue. Let's see if he has that short run pace, or if Logan Clampett has a little bit more speed up his sleeve in the short run and can challenge Keegan Leahy.
Pace car going to be in this time. Restart with 11 laps to go from Bristol. Leahy wastes no time. Green flag back in the air, and he'll pull 4 car lengths down to turn 1.
That is a monster restart, but Logan still has a lot of momentum up top.
And 97 looks good. He made up all 4 of those car lengths in just 2 corners. He is back on the bumper to the 32. They're side by side, third behind. Lose on the inside. Oh, and they're wrecking. It's Wilson. He spins, and Michael Conti is involved. Vicente Salas involved as well. And 2 major playoff drivers involved in that accident.
Chaos. This is the Bristol we know. It looks like Steve Wilson had got up there top 5, just came off the corner, went up into Bobby Zelensky there. Maybe just got a tick loose off the bottom, was trying to put the power down. Cleared Bobby Zelensky. Oh, yeah, and just got into the side of him. And that's then, you know, at that point, up that high up in the field, to then come back across the racetrack, you just assume there's going to be so many cars that also get involved after that.
Watching Busa here in the 75. He's behind where all of this kicks off, and nearly got sideswiped there by the 21, but somehow he finds a hole. That last car that he avoided, Steve, was Vicente Salas. Salas kind of was like a haphazardly spin, right? He was like a secondary accident there as everybody tried to avoid it, and he just got tagged, so his damage isn't that bad. But you can see up the road there, I mean, Michael Conti goes into the fence and he gets obliterated. Bryant gonna squeak through once, not twice, to get through. But the big thing I take away from that is that Michael Conti got absolutely obliterated in that accident, and that is huge.
Yeah, it's going to be huge playoff ramifications, playoff drivers involved, and as Parker pointed out, it's just, you know, so fast and so narrow that when an issue happens, you kind of just aim for a hole and hope it's still there when you get there. You see on the right-hand side the points live now after that accident. Michael Conti all the way down at the bottom at minus 29.
It was 6 coming into this race. That was the difference for Michael Conti. 4 points to Busa coming into this race. Just like that, you go from running inside of the top 10 to being minus 34. And we talked about how close all the intervals were after Darlington, right? I mean, with the exception of Leahy, whose night fell apart and found himself 27 below the cut line, everybody else below P4 was within a single-digit spot. Well, that's not going to be the case after this one, and he's done. He's going to, I'm sure, let us know on Twitter what his thoughts are after that race. And you saw how many drivers were now double digits out on that quick look at the live points. The mentalities headed into that Talladega race in 2 weeks going to be very different than how that point situation looked coming into this one. And anytime a playoff driver struggles, it helps out others, right? So for the drivers that avoided that, Graham Bolin to P7 in this race, Busa still hanging tough in 12th, could offer those drivers an opportunity to get away with what for many of them had been a poor night, right? Vicente Salas still 17th, Bob Bryant 19th. Mullis has been down near 30th all night. Maybe one last chance for these drivers to pick up more spots as we'll go for a restart with 4 laps to go in this race. And Parker, you've got Conti on the radio.
Hey, Michael, it's Parker here up in the booth. Just want to check in with you. What do you see from your point of view? Is there anything you could have hoped to do to avoid that wreck?
No, not really. I saw him wrecking up top and tried to go to the bottom, and then got absolutely demolished into the inside wall, and we're done. So makes Talladega pretty simple for a WR1 team. We got to go out there and win. So just do that.
Green flag back in the air.
Bud. Thanks for joining us.
4 laps to go from Bristol, and again, Keegan gets the jump. That's everything that he needs, but Logan was able to reel it in pretty quickly last time. Still fighting for third. Luza inside, DeYoung up top. Give Luza P3 as he completes the slide, but Leahy's advantage is 4 car lengths coming to 3 laps to go.
Leahy went so quick, I thought he might hit the pace car. Pace car turned left, and Leahy accelerated, and he's using that lead now with 3 to go.
Took the bumper off it. Now 2 laps to go. He needs to get to the white for this race to be official. There's lots of side-by-side. P6 on back.
That's what you're just hoping for in Keegan's position. Just get to that white flag as he sees it there. This race will be official. He's absolutely dominated this. He knew he had to come in here and find victory lane. Looks like he may do it, Evan.
He'll have a shot at redemption in the championship fight in 2021. Keegan Leahy emphatically dominates tonight at Bristol and will lock himself in to the championship for what a dominating statement night. And that is a pumped up driver of the 32 Toyota. He just let out a huge scream over the open radio chatter. That is how much you can tell how much this means to Keegan and how pumped he was to be able to close this one out. Such a good night. Had a couple of late race restarts. He stayed on it, and he'll come around to celebrate on the front straightaway. This winning moment is brought to you by Coca-Cola, the official fan refreshment of eNASCAR. Leahy is a 2-time winner in 2021, and he picks up his 9th career win. Steve, let's take a look at our Coca-Cola move of the race in this one, and really I'd say it could be the first restart of the night because he checked out, but obviously it came down to locking this up. One final restart, and he saved his best for last.
He did. It was a great restart. He took advantage of it, went early, and used that gap. He had dominated the race all night long, but there's a lot of ways to lose race at the end, but not for the 32 of Leahy. Did a wonderful job sealing it up with that last restart.
And he is in victory lane in the Bristol night race. You can see one final set of corners, no time for the other drivers to catch back up to him, and Keegan was home free as he could run this one out to take home the checkered flag. A race winner earlier this year at Homestead. He is now back in victory lane once more. Steve, let's talk with our race winner. Keegan Leahy's in victory lane at Bristol.
Oh, Keegan, Steve Letarte and the guys up in the booth. We saw the excitement when you cross the start-finish line, a dominating performance. How good does it feel to be back in the finale and racing for a championship?
I've never experienced this before, but it really does feel like a dream. I did not expect this morning or even in the last 10 laps for this to happen. This takes me back to my first real big race I did was at Bristol. It was B Open night. Some of the guys in the booth might remember. I raced Ryan Lowe for the win. Best battle of my career up until now. Felt just like that. I got to thank my spotter, Matt Bontempi, so much. He kept me calm during that whole thing. He's key to this. And I always promise my grandmother to shout out to her, and I always forget. But Nana, I love you. Thank you for watching. I know you're pretty ecstatic, probably more than me.
Well, Keegan, it was an impressive performance. We talked to you before the race. You seemed a little concerned about your race pace, confident in your qualifying pace. You dominated the race and controlled the race all night long. Was that really the key?
Yeah, I needed the clean air. I didn't push a single lap until the last 10. I had to save tires. What I was trying to do, I didn't want my competition to know, but I was backing them up so that I didn't reach the tail of the line. I didn't want to start passing lap traffic, so I did as little of that as possible. And I was running like 2/10 off the whole run, just making sure nobody got a run on me. But yeah, pushed it at the end. That felt nice because I like turning fast laps.
Well, it was impressive at the end. Congratulations. You're locked in. You now join the 83 of Zelensky as the two cars locked in to the Championship 4 race at the end of the season.
Thank you so much, Steve.
All right, well, let's go down the grid. It was a great run and a battle towards the front for the 97 of Logan Clampett. So let's check in with him. Logan, first of all, congratulations. A great run. You moved up through the field. Take us into the behind the wheel there. Before those cautions, do you think under green on that long run, was that your best chance to get by the 32?
Yeah, I think we were definitely, a lot better mid-run and long run compared to everyone else. Keegan's a really smart racer. It's pretty tough to beat him. But that last big green flag run, he just had clean air and he just kind of forced me and Mitchell to battle it out, and I just used up all my tires. And like I said, he had all that clean air to kind of save his tires, so he had a big advantage over that. That was a good drive. That was definitely the best Bristol setup I've ever had, thanks to the guys at the Team Conti crew, Nick Ottinger, Matt Busa, Michael Conti, and then I got my spotter up there, Jason Loafing, and my crew chief Dustin Hall in there the whole race to keep me company and help me out. Wish we could have gotten it done. Got to worry about Dega now. I feel like we definitely had the faster car, but just not the right positioning.
All right, man. Well, congratulations. Great top 3 run, and good luck heading to Talladega. I know it's going to be high anxiety.
Yep.
Pressure for you, but unfortunately that means it's going to be exciting for us, the fans. Good luck.
Yep. Thank you, Steve.
All right, let's catch up with third place finisher Ryan Luza, who came on very strong there late. Ryan, I got to check in terms of that pace you had there. Did that surprise you at all to have that pace late in the race and you started to move up?
It really did. The first round I was kind of struggling. I was really tight. And in our practice race yesterday, I was tight in the first run and then loosened it up in the second run and blew my right rear off. So I wasn't going to do that. And I just ended up putting the brake bias down as far as I could go. And I guess it was perfect. I kind of got to sit there on the bottom and save my tires. We were super fast there at the end. I wanted to go green, but I think Keegan was able to save too much out front. But I think we could have got Clamp and maybe, started running down Keegan. But yeah, it really surprised me. Just really good changes as the race went on, and the car, I guess, just came into the track as it got more rubber.
So we also got to ask you, you racing on a generator tonight, having to power that rig?
It is very hot in here. It's like 85 degrees. I don't know, on that long run, I was just dripping sweat. Every now and then, I guess the generator wasn't pulling the right wattage or ampage or whatever, and my backup power supply would start beeping. So that was kind of sketchy, but everything hung on. Really glad we had all this set up just in case. So thanks to my dad for that. Without him, I would not have raced tonight. So really thankful for that, for sure.
That's incredible, man. Well, great job, and congrats on being able to make it all the way to the end and all of that surviving.
Thanks, Parker. Just want to thank XSET, Ghost, HyperX, everyone involved for staying on with me. It's been a rough year. Starting to turn it around. Just didn't really have the luck this year, but back to running up where we belong.
Well, that is a word with our top 3 finishers. And we take a look at the playoff grid. 2 playoff races, 2 different playoff winners. Keegan Leahy has guaranteed himself a ticket in that championship race at the virtual Texas Motor Speedway coming up on October the 12th. 2 spots, 1 race. Oh, we know Talladega is going to be excited. We'll talk about that in a minute. First, let's take a look top to bottom at tonight's full race results tonight here for the virtual Bristol Motor Speedway. Again, notably, you're looking for your playoff drivers, and playoff drivers finishing first with Leahy, second with Clampett, and fourth with Mitchell DeYoung. Of course, Bobby Zelensky finished seventh. Graham Bolin finished in eighth position for playoff cars.
Right, as we get back here into the 11 through 20, this is where it really got shook up with those late race wrecks that we saw. These drivers all sort of got jumbled around and changed for what we saw for maybe majority of the race under green. But as we look down here, Vicente Salas, who got the back there of Graham Bolin and caused some of those yellows, that really changed things.
Yeah, as you go back even further, most of these guys at some point were involved in some sort of accident. Garrett Baines all the way down there at 29th. We were on board with him earlier in the race when he got some damage to the nose. He was able to get that through. And then all the way at the back, you see the cars multiple laps down, including Michael Conti in that 8 involved in that big accident.
Very impressive stuff to round out the running order here at Bristol. And it's funny because all season long, guys, we talked about the win in, you're in, right? And there were some drivers who only advanced because of a win. If wins didn't count for this postseason, Keegan would still be dead last in the championship standings. I mean, he'd be pretty down there, but because he's up there, he is primed. And if there was one race that I do not want to determine my fate, it would be a plate race. And that is coming up next, guys. 2 weeks' time. How about Talladega?
Well, if I am either Zelensky or Keegan Leahy, I'm excited to go to Talladega, enjoy myself, try to help my teammates, try to advance. But in the end, anything can happen at Talladega. That's why the fans love it. That's why the competitors dread it, fear it, have high anxiety. But it takes a little luck, but it also takes good, smart driving. Parker knows he's gone to victory lane there in a NASCAR race. So Parker, you have to miss the big wreck, but you also have to make the right decisions, and it can come down to the last quarter mile heading through the trial.
No doubt, Steven. The thing about Talladega that's sort of a misunderstood part of it is that you just have to go in there with the right mental attitude. If you're dreading going to Talladega, if you're dreading going to super speedway racing and being put in awkward positions and maybe being put in precarious positions, you're not going to run well. It's all about mentality. And for these drivers, they're going to have to make their way through to race for a championship at Talladega. They've got to go in there with the mentality of there's no better place they could think of than Talladega to line themselves up to go run for a championship. So I think it's going to be an awesome show. I can't wait. That's one of my favorite tracks in all of NASCAR. It's going to be an amazing show.
You said it talking with Logan, right? Not great for some of the drivers, great for us because it's going to be an awesome show. Some drivers may sleep better than others after this one, but unless you're Bobby Zelensky or Keegan Leahy, there's a lot on the line headed into that Talladega race. But until then, that is it for us here tonight from Bristol. So on behalf of our entire team behind the scenes at iRacing and NASCAR, and for your broadcast team tonight, for Parker Kligerman, Steve Letarte, and myself, Evan Pasocco, I want to thank you for joining, and congratulations to Keegan Leahy, the two-time winner this year. He is locked in to the championship battle. We are back in 2 weeks' time for the final race of the first round for the virtual Talladega Super Speedway on Tuesday, September 28th. That race and every race of the 2021 eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series playoffs can be found right here on the iRacing Esports Network and streaming live at eNASCAR.com. Until next time, good night from Bristol, where Keegan Leahy has locked himself in for a shot at championship redemption.